5 years is a long time to hold a spotlight. Most artists can't. The hype starts eating itself, expectations turn into pressure, and the whole thing becomes less about the music and more about whether the artist can survive the moment. And yet, Baby Keem finally put Casino on the table, and it didn't land like the album we've been waiting for. It landed like a line in the sand. Because the clearest thing after this release is simple. This record didn't just meet expectations. It rewrote what people are going to expect from him going forward. Not only that, it's going to shift how a lot of listeners measure the future of hip-hop itself. That's a heavy statement, but it's the kind of weight this album actually carries. It feels like the project that changes an artist's life in real time. The kind that doesn't just add a chapter to the story, it changes the whole genre of the story. And before the deep dive goes any further, here's the deal. If an artist this young is willing to expose this much and build something this intentional, the culture should show up for it. So yes, like the video, subscribe, and support the channel because this is one of those moments where the conversation matters. Now, most of the time when albums take forever, people are left holding disappointment. The wait becomes bigger than the music. But with Casino, it's almost the opposite. The longer it took, the more it makes sense why it took that long. And once the real reason clicks, that's when the album starts feeling even more dangerous. Because it isn't just a collection of songs. It's a statement. And that statement starts with a vision most artists wouldn't even think to build around. But Keem did. And that's where this story really begins. A long wait can ruin an album before it's even heard. That's the curse of anticipation. People create imaginary versions of the project, then get mad when reality doesn't match the fantasy. That's what makes this release so wild. Casino somehow survives that curse. More than that, it uses it. The pressure wasn't just, can he make a good album? It was, can he justify 5 years of expectation? Can he deliver something that feels worth that time? And by the time the record is done, it doesn't feel like Keem was stalling. It feels like he was building. Because in the landscape of newer artists, especially those who came into the mainstream spotlight over the last decade, this album doesn't just compete. It separates. It raises the bar for what the new class can be capable of. And the most interesting part is that isn't even because of the production first. It isn't even because of the hits first. Those things matter, sure, but that's not the core. The core is that the album has a spirit. It has an identity that feels designed. It moves like someone had a clear idea of what the listener should feel when they should feel it and why. And that's not common. A lot of albums have great songs. Fewer albums have a real heartbeat. Casino has one. And Keem made it clear what that heartbeat is when he talked about the purpose behind the project. He described it as something made for a specific type of person. Not the loudest person in the room. Not the person chasing trends. The child who walks home slow from school. And that sounds simple until it's not. Because once that idea is understood, everything on this album starts sounding like it's aimed at the same place in the human body. The part that holds childhood, grief, confusion, and the messy reality of family. And right when that sinks in, the album reveals what that walking home slow really means. That line, for the child who walks home slow from school, isn't just a poetic tagline. It's a mission statement. It's Keem telling the audience who this music is for and what emotional world it's built to reach. Because when a kid walks home slow, it usually isn't because they love the scenery. It's because home feels heavy. It's because going back means stepping into tension, uncertainty, pain, or things that don't feel safe. It means stepping into a place where the adults might not be stable, where love might be complicated, where silence might be loud. And Keem frames the album in the shadow of real loss too, dropping it around the anniversary of losing his grandmother, a person who clearly wasn't just family, but a pillar, a presence, the kind of person that holds a home together when everything else is shaking. So when he's telling these stories, it isn't for dramatic effect. It's not trauma for aesthetics. It's Keem trying to make meaning out of the chaos. And the album keeps circling that chaos in specific ways. The relationship with his mother, the hunger for closure, the way family pain can follow a person into adulthood no matter how successful they become. He's not speaking like someone who has it all figured out. He's speaking like someone still trying to process. And that's why the concept matters so much, because Keem doesn't tell these stories in a random space. He tells them through the lens of one place that perfectly matches the emotional roller coaster he's describing: a casino. And once that setting becomes the frame, the whole album starts feeling like a movie, but not the glamorous type. The type where the lights are bright, the room is loud, and people are quietly breaking apart inside. The casino isn't just a title choice. It's the storytelling device that gives Keem endless room to move. Because a casino is one of the few settings that can hold joy and disaster in the same breath. People go there chasing a dream, and people leave there losing themselves. That's why it mirrors life so well. It's the perfect metaphor for the extremes: winning big, feeling unstoppable, then crashing into the worst moment of your life and walking away with nothing. And Keem uses that setting to frame everything: the family dynamics, the grief, the betrayal, the hunger for closure, and the emotional gambling people do when they keep hoping things will change. Because that's what a lot of family situations are: a bet, a constant rolling of the dice. Maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time the love will show up right. Maybe this time nobody will take from me. Maybe this time I'll stop getting hurt. And the album makes it personal, too. Keem isn't describing a casino like a tourist. He's describing it like it's a place he watched people get swallowed by, like it's part of his origin story. That's why, conceptually, the album feels airtight. It's not only deeply personal, it's universally relatable. People might not share Keem's exact life, but they understand the emotional math: hope, risk, loss, survival. And by building the album this way, Keem basically gave himself permission to tell any part of his story he wants, in any emotional tone he wants, without it ever feeling disconnected. Because casinos are built on variety. Bright moments, dark corners, euphoria, regret. That's the genius. So when the album gets into the actual track list, the part where concepts usually fall apart, Casino doesn't fall apart. It locks in. And the execution? That's where the "this isn't normal" feeling really kicks in. Especially when you realize it's only 11 songs on streaming, and not a single one feels like filler. It's one thing to be popular. It's another thing to be undeniable. That's what tracks like "I Am Not a Lyricist" do for an artist. They force a reevaluation. They make people look back at everything they assumed and realize they didn't have the full picture. Because nobody expected Keem to make a song like this. And that's the point. When artists create generational albums, the type people talk about years later, there's usually at least one track that feels like a portal. Something deeper, more reflective, almost unreal. A track that pulls back the curtain on who the artist is and how their brain works. A lot of newer artists don't have those songs. They have moments, but not revelations. Keem delivers a revelation. The comparisons people have been throwing around are not casual either. When listeners start saying a song feels like Andre 3000 made it, or like Andre somehow got transported into the present and spoke through Keem, that isn't just praise. That's a sign that Keem tapped into a level of artistry that lives above trends. Because Andre 3000 isn't just a great rapper. He represents creativity that expands the definition of what rap can sound like, what it can feel like, how it can move. So if Keem is getting that kind of comparison, it means he isn't only competing with his peers. He's aiming at the legends. And that's why this album feels like it pushes him beyond the field. It's not he's good for the new generation. It's he's building a claim to be one of the faces of where the genre goes next. And that should make competitors nervous, especially because this skill isn't arriving alone. It's arriving with Keem's production instincts, his ear for what the younger audience loves, and his ability to create moments that translate into real energy. It's like he's blending the old and the new, not in a forced way, but in a way that makes hip-hop feel like it's evolving in front of people. And if "I Am Not a Lyricist" is the proof of the pen, then Circus Freestyle is the proof of everything else. Because that track doesn't just show he can rap, it shows he can command a whole universe. And the way he does it, that's where the album starts feeling genuinely generational. Some songs sound like an artist had a good day. Circus Freestyle sounds like an artist unlocked a new form. Because on this track, Keem doesn't just perform one role. He stacks them: rapper, storyteller, producer, vocalist, conceptual thinker. Like he turned every slider up and refused to choose just one identity. The bravado hits first. Not empty confidence, but the kind that feels earned. Like he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's enjoying the fact that people can't predict his next move. And the pairing, the beat with his delivery, is one of those combinations that feels rare. Like the instrumental was built to shape-shift with him, and he's built to shape-shift with it. He switches voices, personalities, energy levels, almost like he's playing multiple versions of himself in the same song. It's chaotic, but the chaos isn't random. It's controlled, like the casino itself. Noise everywhere, flashing lights, emotions flying around. But underneath it all, there's structure, there's design. And the reason it feels so powerful is because it lands like a moment, not just a track. The kind of moment people point to later and go, that's when it became obvious. Because that's what magnum opus songs do. They don't just sound good, they announce a new level. And while Circus Circus Freestyle is intense, it also sets up something else important. Keem didn't forget how to make the kind of records that turn a tour into chaos in the best way. Because this album isn't only introspective, it's also packed with energy meant for crowds. And when those crowd-ready tracks arrive, they don't feel like a detour. They feel like part of the same story. And it starts with the self-titled track, then escalates into something even bigger. Especially once Kendrick enters the picture. Good Flirts is one of those songs where the internet can argue all day, but the music still wins. Yes, Kendrick's verse has people dissecting references and debating intent. Yes, the feature itself became controversial in certain circles. But when the track plays, the arguments fade for a second because the record is just appealing. The hook work, the bridge, the way Keem and Momo Boy move through the song. It's crafted to feel smooth, emotional, and addictive. It carries that love song energy without sounding like a generic crossover attempt. And spiritually, even though it sounds fresh, it taps into a familiar feeling. Like those classic rap and R&B blend from the late 90s and early 2000s, but translated into the language of the present. That's why it feels like it could stick, not just as a fan favorite, but as a standout hit. The kind of song that doesn't disappear after release week. The kind that climbs. Kendrick's contribution matters because he doesn't come in trying to dominate the song with dense bars. He slides into a smoother pocket, more vibe-driven, and it works because it gives the record what it needs. He shows up like someone serving the song, not his ego. And that's likely why, as the album keeps moving, this track feels like it has the clearest big single potential. But the album doesn't stay in that smooth space for long, because Keem does something smart. He balances the darker, heavier parts of the record with lighter tracks that keep the pacing alive. And those fun songs aren't throwaways either. They're proof of range. They're the kind of tracks that make the album replayable even when the themes are heavy. And once those arrive, a different part of Keem's mind starts showing. The part that makes people say he doesn't think like most artists. A great album outro doesn't just end the project. It seals it. And No Blame feels like one of the strongest closing tracks rap has heard in a long time, especially when it comes to finishing an album on the most meaningful note possible. Because it captures the heart of what Casino has been showing the whole time. Family pain, complicated love, grief, betrayal, and a struggle to find closure when the people you need closure from are the people you also still care about. Keem doesn't wrap it up like a superhero. He wraps it up like a human being, someone trying to cope in real time, using music as the only place where the truth can come out clean. That's what the greats do. They don't just entertain, they document. And that's why this album feels like it's going to age beautifully. The ideas aren't trendy. They're life. The execution isn't messy. It's intentional. The vision isn't vague. It's clear. Casino feels like a modern hip-hop masterpiece and a blueprint that new artists are going to study, whether they admit it or not. Now it's on the audience. Where does this album sit for you? Which songs hit the hardest? Which ones do you replay the most? What would you rate out of 10? Do you lean toward the darker, personal tracks or the fun, upbeat, Vibe-heavy moments? And what about the features? How do they change the album for you? Drop all of that in the comments, because the conversation around a project like this is part of the experience. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe, because if Casino just raised the bar for the future, then the next discussion is going to be even bigger.